Thou shalt not pawn your neighbor's creepy art. This is AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Shymanski, and today we're reviewing Favorite Daughter by Canadian author Morgan Dick. This book has an amazing hook. Mickey is an alcoholic kindergarten teacher when she learns that her father, that she hasn't seen since she was a kid, died and left her a fortune of $5 million. The catch is that to get the money, she has to get a series of therapy sessions with a specific therapist that so happens to be her estranged half-sister. Neither of them know about the familial connection, but what really starts the story is that the therapist was the person who was initially expected to inherit that $5 million. Throughout the sessions, Arlo, the therapist, starts to connect the dots and realizes Mickey is the one who's getting her $5 million. And of course, trashy family drama ensues. This is an 11-hour audiobook narrated by Susanna Fernier and Heather Cosick, brilliantly narrated, by the way. It was published by Doubleday Canada in 2025. And we're doing this review today with regular contributor Aamer Khan. Aamer, you brought this one to our attention, but I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Yeah, this book had it, like you said, an amazing hook. Narration was amazing, but it was sort of I came across it on CBC's The Current, where they were interviewing some bookstore owners on the East Coast and West Coast, which I thought was interesting, and both sort of suggested this book as the hottest read or one of the hottest reads of the summer. And I'm
Interesting.
gonna have to disagree. I I think the hook is a lot more entertaining than the actual book. You mentioned it was 11 hours long, and to me, it felt even longer. Um, there are some great scenes in the book, and there's just a lot of interesting pieces, but I never really felt connected to a lot of the characters. You're not really rooting for everybody. I mean, basically, all the main characters turn out to be terrible in some shape, way, or form, with very few redeeming qualities, in my opinion. Did you feel that way, Jacob?
I kind of like stories where the main characters are trash. And I mean, Mickey is an alcoholic kindergarten teacher and
Yep.
she basically like kidnaps a kid, steals her neighbor's cat, tries to steal her neighbor's art. When she was younger, she like stole stuff from stores, like stole stuff from like the drawers when she was at sleepovers. Um, she's just kind of a jerk. She like bullies a grown man into like tears in a coffee shop. Like she is a garbage human being and I love her character. I kind of disagree with you that this is not. I generally enjoyed this book, and far from perfect. I will agree that it does drag at times, mainly because of the ending, but the execution of the hook itself is done quite well. It's just a book that could have used a little bit of editing more than anything. Um, the two main characters are Mickey, the kindergarten teacher, and Arlo, the therapist. They're half sisters, and I think a lot of the entertainment factor and the uniqueness of this book comes from their interactions. The book is told from both of their perspectives, kind of alternating from like a first person point of view. And it's interesting to see how they regard each other. And they regard each other and interpret things completely differently. And sometimes in the middle of a scene, it'll change perspectives. And I love when books do that. And I think that's an aspect that this book did really well. Both of these people, including the therapist, Arlo, is kind of a slimy person. What did you think of Arlo?
So that's something I was going to mention. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, all of the characters that we see in this book are messed up, right? I mean, and I think that's some of the appeal of this book to see how they deal with those challenges. I mean, on the face of it, Arlo is sort of introduced as a very sort of straight laced, good daughter type of character. And then one of the first scenes that we see is that she sleeps with her father's attorney, who is about her father's age. And then we have this bizarre scene where she's basically giving him a therapy session, the morning after, while he's still in bed, and you're just scratching your head going like, "What?" There's something wrong with the both of them, already, sort of right out of the gate. So, we see, Mickey as well in that opening scene of being a very good kindergarten teacher, but then having this alcohol addiction problem, which is again sort of hilarious and dichotomous in terms of, well, kindergarten teachers aren't usually like high functioning alcoholics, which she clearly is. And then you have some bizarre side characters too, which are again interesting to read about. But I think you're right. I mean, some editing and there's some cohesion lacking in this book in terms of putting it all together. Her neighbors is a great side character. You mentioned her in terms of selling her art or trying to steal her art to sell on Mickey's behalf. And then we have another side character, this lawyer dude who seems to be on his own sort of spiritual journey to be a better person, but knows that he's been basically, in your words, a garbage human being in the past, but is trying to change. But he seems to be still having some trouble with that. So, um, yeah, an interesting book in that sense. There's in terms of a lot going on. It's not super boring. It does drag at times, but the scenes that are interesting are truly interesting and capture your attention.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It feels like when this book is good, it's fantastic, which is why it's so frustrating to see that it does drag on in a lot of sections. What I was alluding to earlier with the ending is that it feels like the last 30% of this book is like an epilogue. Like the real
Yeah,
conflict mostly resolves by
agreed.
the 70% point, maybe 75%. And it just could have been wrapped up so much faster. The climax itself was also a bit underwhelming. The best part of this book were those therapy sessions where they get to know each other, and Arlo, it eventually clicks in her head that, oh, Mickey is my estranged sister, and she's the one inheriting the $5 million and not me. And the way that she uses that position, that knowledge, because she makes the realization first, and she uses that position as a therapist, as somebody who is listening to Mickey in like divulge everything in confidence to basically try to figure out, why did my dad cut me out of the will? Why does she not get to inherit the $5 million? And why does this alcoholic mess of a person get it instead of me? And it's like, it's kind of funny to see that while Arlo is learning who got the $5 million ahead of her, that the person who got it is this person who's stealing from people, who's an absolute nightmare of a person to be around. Just generally seen as like somebody who, the type of person you would see screaming on the subway if things went really badly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most messed up person in this entire book is the one that didn't sort of get any screen time, and that's the father. I mean, we still don't
Oh
know what
yeah.
his what his motivation was besides pitting his daughters sort of against each other.
It's
Um,
true. You don't really learn the motivation. I think they
we
all
don't.
kind of agreed it was really messed up that he would do that, because he specifically arranged that that it had to be Arlo to be Mickey's therapist. And like, why? We never
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that answered directly.
And I'm always overly critical in general of things in terms of books, but I mean, can we talk about how everybody in this book is terrible at their jobs? I mean, you have a
How
kindergarten
so?
you have a kindergarten teacher that's amazing at her job, but she's an alcoholic, which those 2 don't go together. We have a lawyer that sleeps in his office with confidential documents just strewn around with random people that can come just and take whatever they want. We have Arlo, who's a therapist who's got her own demons running around, not to mention the whole, you know, as you mentioned, the conflict of interest with her sister, right? I mean, they're all terrible at their jobs, but they're all really good at their jobs at the same time. It's a weird mix.
Most of the parents are bad at their jobs too. Every single example of parenting in this book is like
Yeah.
kind of questionable in some way or form. Obviously, the like Arlo and Mickey's dad, not a good person. It's safe to say that he's like playing games
Oh, Jacob, you cut
posthumously.
out.
Um, even Chris, the this like side character who's kind of like this like bumbling dad character that has like no idea what to do with his kid, like, and Mickey kind of has to help him out because she's actually good with kids in her weird kind of way. Um, but something else that I thought was really well done in this book is how it seemed like she did a lot of research on alcoholism, and there were a lot of little
Mhm,
bits of information that I'd never really considered when it came to alcoholism. Like she talks about like how alcoholics will go out of their way to find these clever ways of masking the smell that comes off their breath, um,
mhm.
and how if you drink a lot, you'll have like like a tongue that's sort of like stained almost like orange from the alcohol, or depending on what you drink. And then drinking milk can apparently mask the smell of alcohol, and how like you just end up drinking because it's it's almost like you're going to do it anyways. Like it was like destiny that you would drink, and like why would you stop it, basically? And
Yeah,
like that was such an interesting bit of research that I really appreciated. Like it wasn't like she was just an alcoholic; is that it was well researched, and I kind of understood her struggle.
yeah, and I think that was on both sides,
Mm.
even with the therapy sessions, right? She actually sort of walks you through those thoughts and how they are. Even the whole concept of denial with the alcoholism, right? In terms
Yes.
of, "Oh, it's just
Oh,
a water bottle full of vodka," and you're like, "Wait, that's not that's not just a water bottle full of vodka. That's a problem right there."
yeah, because you see it from Mickey's
Yeah.
perspective. Wait, also, it's kind of funny that she's an alcoholic called Mickey. Anyways, I just made that connection.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that you see that the alcoholism from her perspective, and she's in denial, but it's not directly told to you like she's in denial being
Exactly.
an alcoholic. It's just like she points out, like, oh yeah, and then I had a drink here, and just casually moves on. You like you're gonna have a drink before going to teach your kindergarten class. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah, or right after, right? You're just waiting for it, she's, like, literally watching the clock and like,
Yeah.
you know?
The book has a dark sense of humor. The writing style made me laugh often with these funny, like irreverent descriptions. And something I thought was really funny was how this wasn't like Mickey making these observations to be clear. It was like the narrations humor and observations that was made about therapy, and specifically how Arlo is kind of a slimy therapist that almost gets like enjoyment out of this like game of getting to crack a patient's troubles. And there's this excerpt I want to read that illustrates this really well. This is during a conversation where Mickey calls Arlo during a moment of crisis. Truthfully, Arlo could hardly breathe herself. Mickey had reached out during a moment of crisis. This could be her catalyst, the turning point at which she finally acknowledged her need for serious help. And she did need serious help. That much was clear. Now let's try again, Arlo said, not gleeful per se. I got hammered at my birthday party and dropped a wine decanter, and a glass flew into a little boy's eyeball. I see. Excited. Arlo was excited about this. How could she not be? Anyways, I as someone who has never had a lot of experience with therapy, always thought this concept of just divulging absolutely everything to this professional in mental health felt icky. Like a little bit like you really have to be vulnerable to somebody who charges by the hour. Not even the hour, every 50 minutes.
Yeah,
And
and I think
it's
this
like this
is
is really well expressed in this book. Like it's kind of irreverent towards therapy.
it's the part where you don't know what the other party is thinking, right? And this is sort of giving you a glimpse into it. I mean, whether it's something like this or something even on the extreme end of violence, like whether you're a soldier or whatever, you don't know what's going through people's minds, right? I mean, you have the concept of freedom fighting and all this stuff, but at the same time, for a soldier, it's actual violence. In this case, you see Arlo's thinking process. It's not just to help people, but she really enjoys solving the puzzle of people more than actually helping them. And you see this slide sort of throughout the book, right? At the beginning, it really seems like Arlo is genuinely trying to help people, and then and this is something the author does well. It sort of slides into that slimy end of the scale, like you're describing, in terms of you see how much she's enjoying it more for the fact of her basically doing something rather than helping the other party, right?
And this is before she even realizes that Mickey was the one who got $5 million instead of her. And so,
Right.
like, even before that, she was kind of presented as this slimy therapist. And then once she does learn of the inheritance and the plot twist that comes with that, uh, then she starts kind of like probing at Mickey to learn about like her upbringing, what possibly could have made their father give her the money instead,
Yep.
instead to Arlo. You know what I mean? Hmm.
Yep. Yep. And that's something, I mean, and later on with that poeming, she starts to realize that they basically both went through the same experiences with their father in terms of dealing with his alcoholism. Um, and that's an interesting part of the book too, where, she's trying to figure out why the money is going to her and then ends up learning more about how more similar they are. Um,
One of my favorite bits of the story that really made me laugh was that party where Mickey throws her 34th birthday and she invites a couple people, but she's
mm,
completely hammered. And
yep,
the way that's set up is very casual. She just drinks, like it's pretty perfectly normal. But then
yep,
she's like
yep.
completely hammered, trying to pretend that she's not. She drops a wine decanter. A little bit of glass goes into a little boy's eye. He's totally fine, but it creates absolute chaos. Her friends treat her like a child because in that moment she is, because she's just completely hammered, which basically turns you into a child. And the whole scene is just absolutely chaotic and brilliantly written, which later on leads her to stealing her friend's very expensive cat that she pawns twenty
Which
five
is part leopard,
thousand
remember, it's
dollars,
part
which
leopard.
is part leopard. That is true. That's true because she really needs money to pay off somebody who's blackmailing her. It's
Yep,
there's a lot going on in this book,
there is.
but I don't know. Mickey is a delightfully trashy person. I'm glad she's not a real person.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of side characters, as I said earlier, I mean, we have the side characters of the pawn shop owner and his son. I mean, that
Yeah,
was a really weird and sort of sticky scene as well. Um, but it really sort of colors in parts of the book in terms of those little details.
I can't think of a single person, single character in this book that was an upstanding individual. Like everyone was definitely on the slimy spectrum, at
Her
least
mother, a little
some
bit,
form of
I
sketchy.
think would probably be the only one I would say is relatively on the level. Mickey's mom. You see her snap sort of at
Yeah,
the beginning at the funeral, but, I mean, she seems to be the only one with any sort of common sense whatsoever.
yeah, that's true. And like something else I liked about the writing specifically in this book is it does something I wish authors did more often, and that was lean into hyper specificities. And I don't mean saying like very descriptive, like long passages of description, but that when you do give descriptions for them to be very unique, to be very memorable and sticky. Like don't just say somebody's wearing a red hoodie. Say somebody is wearing like a hoodie with a huge hole in the back or something like that, like something
Yeah,
extremely specific. And an example I thought was pretty funny was when they were talking about how what they make for dinner at one point. He goes,
yep.
this was Chris. He says, "What I do is make a grilled cheese sandwich, a really big one, right? And then I heat up a jar of tikka masala sauce and use it as a dip. Sometimes I eat the leftover sauce with a spoon." I kind of want to try that. I don't think I've ever gotten inspiration for a recipe in a book, but this might be the first one.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the charm of this book is that the scenes aren't one-dimensional or two-dimensional. In a lot of ways, a lot of the scenes have smells, they have color, they have, taste, they have all the things. There's songs, when the ABBA is playing at the funeral in one of the opening scenes. You have songs at the hairdressers. You have the diffuser in her neighbor's apartment, and like you have all these different senses that she sort of hits, which is a nice, which I always appreciate too. When authors don't just like write narrations based on sight, you have smell and other pieces in the book as well.
Can we talk about the audiobook narration? It was one of the best narrations I've heard in a long time. Specific shout outs to whoever did the voice for Mickey. I'm not sure which one of Susanna Fournier or Heather Cossack did it. But you know what? They were both excellent. What am I saying? But Mickey, I don't I want to be careful at how I say this. Sounded like an alcoholic. She sounded like a very unwell person with a voice that's like constantly wavering. My cat is visiting me right now. Um, but no, but also Arlo had this like much more. She spoke much more assuredly. Like she was much more
Yeah.
confident, but
Yeah,
in
she
like
was
this
much more
like
articulate, and
misguided confidence, like misguided. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and I think that's yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
even with Mickey's narration, you see the denial, and, she's sort of unsure of herself all the time, and that tone definitely comes through the narration. I'm glad you pointed that out, because a lot of the times when the narration is good, you don't really think about it, when you after you read the book, and that's sort of the mark of a really good narration when you
Yeah.
just feel the book rather than thinking about,
Ironically
"Oh, the"
enough,
yeah, yeah,
it's like when
'cause
narration is really good, it almost becomes invisible.
exactly.
It's a thankless job sometimes, but I want to give my
Indeed.
thanks for this one because it was absolutely excellent.
I totally
Also
agree.
well done because it was a book that had alternating point of views and they got two different narrators to do them.
Right,
That
right.
just adds a lot. Although I will say their voices are kind of similar.
Yeah,
They were like especially distinctive, but let's also remember that they're half sisters. So they would
yeah,
sound kind of similar, wouldn't they?
exactly.
Anything else to add before we wrap this up? Maybe a rating, concluding thoughts?
I'm hesitant to give this one a rating because I'm pretty sure it'll be, lower than yours. So
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna
Go
I'm not
ahead and
gonna put
trash it.
no, I give probably a 3.5,
Three and a half?
at the most. At the most. That's yeah, I mean, again, the bar for me would be, would I recommend this to somebody else to read? Probably not.
I
Um, I
am
I found
I
it
g
incredibly optimistic at the end where there were discussion questions. As if this
mm.
book would be, used in school with discussion questions. Yeah, I thought that was, yeah,
Oh,
incredibly,
nah. Nah, this
uh,
book is not gonna be making it in curriculums.
no,
I'd give it a solid 3.7. Slightly better
3.7.
than what you thought, but I think it's just a personal preference thing. I like
Yeah,
books that have very flawed characters. A lot of reviews mention that Mickey and Arlo are very unsympathetic characters. I totally agree with
definitely.
that. I don't think that
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
them uninteresting. Not
Yep, yep,
whatsoever.
yep. I would agree.
I think stylistically, uh, the book is kind of similar to what's the name of the book again? Uh, I hope this finds you
Finds you
well
well.
by
Yeah,
Natalie Sue. I thought it was similar in that like it's like a contemporary story with a pretty dark sense of humor and very flawed characters, but more than anything, a very complicated family dynamics, which seems to be a pretty popular subgenre nowadays. There's a lot of memoirs along those lines, but fiction is especially very popular when it comes to uh, complicated family dynamics. This falls right into that niche.
I would agree. Yeah. I also thought of Natalie Sue's book when
Mm.
when I was reading this.
You did, eh? Yeah,
Yep, yep.
I think it's just that contemporary style. The sense of humor is very similar too. Um, I think that's all I have to say about that. Fun book, honestly. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but it definitely had me interested the entire time. I know you could practically wrap up the book like 80% through. Like you don't need to listen
Yeah,
to the
I agree.
last 20%.
Yeah.
Like you literally lose nothing, I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's an attempt at a hook at the end in terms of some mysterious guest that is coming to see Mickey, and honestly, I didn't care. I was like, it could
I
be
didn't care
anybody.
either.
I have no yeah, I mean, like, I read it to finish it, but, I felt no sense of suspense in terms of, "Ooh, I wonder who it is." I'm just like, "Yeah, it's gonna be
Like
somebody."
like an Avengers credit sequence. It just doesn't
Exactly.
matter. Amr, always
Like,
appreciate you coming on the show, making these recommendations. Uh, Thanks so much for your time.
my pleasure. Take care. See you
That
next time.
was regular contributor and audiobook curator Amr Khan. He comes on the show once a month. We were reviewing Favorite Daughter by Morgan Dick. That's all the time for this edition of AMI Audiobook Review. AMI Audiobook Review airs weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern on AMI Audio and repeats every 6 hours, but we make ourselves easy to find. We're on all the big podcasting platforms, and that includes YouTube. You can email us your feedback at audiobookrareview@ami.ca. That's audiobookrareview@ami.ca with any of your feedback or questions or even book recommendations. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram at AMI Audiobook Review. Our handle is at AMI Audiobook Review. It's not just for plugging the next episode. We're posting reels of our best moments on the show and exclusive content as well. Thanks for tuning into AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Shymanski. Happy listening.